A lot of companies are discussing whether to work remotely and how do we work remotely and so on. Let me present a few options and a conclusion. First, there are three cultures. There's the remote first, hybrid, and legacy office culture. This is the easiest to dismiss. Everyone comes to office every day. This is how Google worked like a decade back when I was there, right? And this is how companies traditionally used to work. Work from home is an exception. Only some people would do it, and only rarely, right? For example, I used to work from home maybe one day every 2 months, so it's very much an exception. In today's world, this culture is dead. So let's not even discuss it further. Let's discuss the hybrid and the remote first culture. The remote first culture, you hire anywhere in the world, and communication is asynchronous. When you're doing remote first, you need to do remote first. Don't adapt what you're used to from working in an office and have a meeting for everything, right? You need to adapt to it. You can't force an older pattern into a newer mechanism. It doesn't work well. Instead, accept the newer situation as a reality and think about how to make the best use of it. A smartphone does not run a PC operating system, and Microsoft tried, it didn't work out, right? So don't like force one thing into another. So communication is asynchronous on Slack. If you need to make a decision, you say, guys, I propose we do this. Does anyone agree, disagree, have a comment? People will give comments. There may be a discussion. They may agree, they may disagree. Only if really necessary, you call a meeting, right? In the office culture, you make decisions via meetings. Here you don't. A meeting is a last resort. So communication is asynchronous, whether Slack or Google Docs or whatever it may be. If you have a substantial proposal, you might even put it in a Google Doc and share the link on Slack. Asynchronous and text-based. Whereas here, here in your city, communication is synchronous and in person, right? Communication, when I say communication, I also include decision making. In this environment, people who refuse to come to office get left out. This happened in one of my teams at Google. All of us used to come to office except one guy, and he was out of sight, out of mind. And he was not plugged into the decision making things. He was not invited to meetings because people forgot he's there, not because of any conscious desire to exclude him. And when everyone is in the office and one guy isn't, like everyone can't bend over backward for one person, right? Because there is a lot to be said for having an impromptu conversation in person, right? Rather than over a video call. Much higher bandwidth in person. So, I am not expressing an opinion in this video as to whether remote first or hybrid is better. They have their advantages. It's a culture. When it comes to culture, you don't say one is better. If you're talking about American culture versus Indian culture, they have their pros and cons, right? You cannot pick one and say this is better than the other. Similarly, it's a matter of personal choice. And if you're running a company, you need to pick between these two. Sometimes companies don't understand that these two things work differently. They say, yeah, yeah, we believe in a hybrid environment. We believe in having an office, and office is where coordination happens. And here, by the way, you may not have an office, or the office is just a place, good desks and internet access and computers and so on. Right? There's nothing special about the office. If you like it, go there. Otherwise, go to a library, go to a bookstore, go wherever you want and work. A coffee shop, anywhere. So sometimes companies say we believe in an office uh, culture, but then they don't. But then they say we don't want to lose people who are not in Bangalore if the company is in Bangalore or who are not willing to relocate, etc., etc. That doesn't work because a company has to work in different ways depending on which culture you adopt. Firstly, if most people are in Bangalore and a few people are elsewhere, they tend to get left out and become second class citizens. That doesn't work. Secondly, the way you communicate and make decisions also has to change. And if you adopt the asynchronous text-based mechanism, then you might as well hire anywhere, right? Then you don't even have an office. You can't have some people using some mechanism and other people using another mechanism, another way of doing things. Conversely, if you do it in person synchronous, then the people who are remote will get left out. So, bottom line, you can't have both because they pull in different directions. Pick one culture, stick with it, have conviction, and pay the price that comes with it. Don't try to have it both ways.